Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into something that literally ends up on your kitchen table every single day, the global food supply chain. We're talking specifically about the meat, poultry, and dairy industries here. And look, the stakes are absolutely massive. We rely on these mega corporations to feed us, and while trusting them is great, having verifiable data is always better. So today, we're going to explore exactly how this industry translates abstract ideas like safety and sustainability into hard, undeniable numbers.
Let me start by posing a question directly to you. How do you mathematically prove the food you're eating is actually safe? It's a really fascinating tension, right? Because on one hand, you have the demand for extreme industrial efficiency, pumping out millions of tons of food. But on the other hand, you have public health. You can't just throw your hands up and say your food is safe. You have to prove it. And today, we're going to look at the exact accounting standards that force these massive companies to put a hard number on that safety.
Okay, here is our roadmap for today. We'll start with measuring what hits your plate, then auditing for food safety, the true cost of recalls, tracking antibiotic usage, and finally, why these metrics matter.
Let's jump right into part 1, measuring what hits your plate.
To steer this massive ship, the meat, poultry, and dairy industries rely on what is essentially a giant dashboard. To really understand this, we have to look at the SASB standards. That's the Sustainability Accounting Standards Board, which is now overseen by the International Sustainability Standards Board, or ISSB. Now, these standards are rigorously designed to help organizations disclose sustainability risks that could genuinely impact their cash flows and cost of capital. In plain English, they force megacorporations to quantify their hidden risks, things like greenhouse gases, water management, and absolutely critically for us today, food safety.
You know the old saying, right? What gets measured gets managed. Well, it's absolutely crucial here. These accounting standards aren't just tedious paperwork or corporate red tape, they're the fundamental building blocks of accountability in our entire food system. By standardizing exactly what has to be reported, investors and the public can actually compare one giant poultry producer against another to see who is truly managing their risks and who's just talking a good game.
Moving on to Section 2, Auditing for Food Safety.
Okay, so the industry uses audits recognized by the Global Food Safety Initiative, or GFSI for short. When inspectors walk through a facility, they're hunting for what they call non-conformances. Now, a major non-conformance is exactly what it sounds like. It is the absolute highest severity level of a food safety risk. I know, it sounds like dry industry jargon designed to put you to sleep, but what it literally means is that there's been a severe regulatory failure, a massive risk to food safety, or a total failure to fix previous minor issues. It means an alarm bell is ringing, requiring immediate escalation and corrective action.
Now, here's where it gets really interesting. The brilliance of the standard is in the contrast. Producers are actually forced by the SASB standards to report the rates of both their major and their minor non-conformances. A minor non-conformance on its own doesn't necessarily mean the whole system is broken. It might just be an isolated hiccup. But by demanding the data for both, the standard paints a super accurate picture of a facility's internal safety culture. It tells us point blank, are they sweating the small stuff, or are they letting huge systemic risks slip right through the cracks?
But hey, finding a problem is only half the battle, right? This is where the math really kicks in. The standard requires companies to disclose their corrective action rate. You basically take the number of corrective actions, which means they eliminated the root cause and verified it won't happen again, and you divide it by the total non-conformances detected. It's a brilliant metric. Companies are being graded mathematically on how effectively they actually fix the real-world dangers their auditors find.
Which brings us to part 3, the true cost of recalls. Because let's face it, when those factory audits fail, dangerous products do make it out the door and into the grocery store. And not all recalls of those products are created equal. The SASB standard requires companies to track them by type. A voluntary recall is initiated by the company itself. They're preemptively pulling a product because of a safety concern. An involuntary recall, though, that's mandated by regulatory authorities. That means the government had to step in because of severe non-compliance or a defect. Tracking both exposes a company's true character. Do they act proactively to protect you, the consumers, or do they wait until the government literally forces their hand?
The standard actually goes even deeper, demanding detailed reporting on what they call notable recalls. Companies have to disclose the exact cause, the total cost to fix it, and the corrective actions taken. But look at that final requirement, serious illnesses or consumer fatalities. I really want to stress this. A recall is not just a sterile business metric on a spreadsheet. It represents real human lives. This accounting standard demands absolute transparency on the deepest, most tragic impacts of a food safety failure.
So how is this massive failure actually quantified? It comes down to weight.
The standard dictates that companies must disclose the total weight in metric tons of the products recalled. This completely strips away any clever PR spin. Tracking the raw aggregate weight of recalled products is the ultimate, undeniable mathematical measure of a food safety breakdown. You can't hide behind vague percentages here. The sheer tonnage tells the whole story.
All right, let's pivot to Section 4, tracking antibiotic usage.
We're moving from the processing plant back to the farm now, right into one of the most critical global health issues of our era. In industrial livestock, antibiotics are often used to improve production output and manage disease. But the SASB standard zeroes in on a very specific category: medically important antibiotics. These are defined as the antimicrobial drugs included in the World Health Organization's list for human medicine. We need to be very clear about what this means. The exact same life-saving drugs used in human hospitals to fight severe infections are frequently pumped straight into the animals we eat.
And this brilliantly illustrates why the standard forces companies to report these two data points separately. Producers must disclose the percentage of animals receiving medically important antibiotics versus those receiving not medically important antibiotics. One is just a matter of farm efficiency and animal health. The other is a direct, pressing threat to human medicine because it can drive the creation of dangerous superbugs. Separating them brings the real risk right into the light.
And again, we are not dealing with vague estimates here. How exactly is this tracked? By literal weight. The equation takes the carcass weight of the animal protein that received antibiotics at any stage of its life and divides it by the total carcass weight produced. Producers have to calculate their exact antibiotic footprint based on the literal physical weight of the animals. It forces total mathematical honesty about the massive scale of the drugs entering our food supply.
Let's bring it all home with Section 5, why these metrics matter.
When you step back and look at how all these pieces fit together, tracking GFSI audit non-conformances, the corrective action rates, the total metric tons of involuntary recalls, and the exact carcass weight of animals treated with human antibiotics, you are essentially looking at a master key. This is the ultimate tool for ESG analysts, investors, and regulators. It allows them to strip away all the glossy marketing campaigns and spot the hidden operational dangers and public health risks buried deep inside the global food supply chain.
Which leaves us with one final, pretty provocative thought to ponder. We've seen how rigorously these mega corporations are asked to track their safety failures and antibiotic footprints behind closed doors, mostly to satisfy financial standards. But imagine if this exact dashboard was printed right on the packaging at your local grocery store. If every single food producer reported these exact unfiltered metrics directly to you tomorrow, how would it change what you buy? Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and keep asking the tough questions.